Okay, I'm going to get started this morning by just welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see everyone here. Sawadee Kap. Welcome to anyone who's joining us online as well. This is the very first day of a 7-month program that I teach called the Group Learning Program, where I gradually walk students through helping them to understand the path to enlightenment. We use this text, Developing a Life Practice, the path that leads to enlightenment, as our foundational text for this program. And I know some of you guys might have just popped in for the morning, not even realizing that that's what today is all about, but you're welcome to learn and grow and develop on this path to enlightenment. You can attend here at the temple, or you can attend online as you travel around. You can attend live through our live streams. You can even watch the recordings instead of attending the live streams, so students can gradually learn and grow and develop on this path to enlightenment. What enlightenment is where the mind is completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you train your mind to enlightenment, you will no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are completely eliminated from the mind. And this is accomplished through training of the mind. There is no belief in the teachings of the Buddha. You're not believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. Instead, you're learning, growing, developing now in this life. And because of that, you see the results now in this life. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to guide you in a meditation here to get us started, so you guys can learn a little bit about meditation and do meditation. Then afterwards, I'm going to move into a talk that's going to help you to understand what the teachings of the Buddha are, kind of from afar. And then we're going to go into giving you some suggestions and ideas about how to get the most benefit out of this program. I'll explain what this program is and how to get the most benefit out of it. So if you'd like to join for the meditation, I'm going to start that first by easing into the meditation with some chanting, which you guys are welcome to join along in. The chanting sheets are over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself and get one. There's laminated sheets there. For anybody who's online, if you would like to see these chants, you can go to our website, buddhadailywisdom.com, click on free books, and then down towards the bottom, you'll actually see the chanting sheet. There is a period of time in this program where I teach chanting. It's going to be about 2 months from now, where I'm going to have a 4-part series where I'm going to be teaching the chanting. But up until then, we'll just be doing the chanting as part of our meditation, giving you guys a chance to experience it. But then when we get to that part of the program, I actually teach how to do the chanting. But just to get you started with understanding chanting a little bit, during the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory, because everything that he taught was oral. The technology to write things down didn't exist in that region of the world, so they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. So every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally in order to commit the teachings to memory. So this isn't a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony, or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. It was purely used as a learning device. There's nothing mystical or magical here in the teachings of the Buddha. So even if you've been exposed to those kinds of things and people are attributing it to the Buddha never taught those kinds of things. So chanting was used during the lifetime of the Buddha purely as a learning device. Today, we don't need that as a learning device because we have books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts, things like this. I still use chanting as a way to ease the mind in the meditation, because you're going to get more benefit out of the meditation when you are doing the chanting. So if you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. If you read the chants, we're going to be chanting in the Pali language, and you'll see those characters there, but there's English translations for you as well. If you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of this, I don't think that the Buddha even created these chants himself, because by the time you've gotten to enlightenment, you've eliminated any kind of ego where you're putting yourself above other people and looking down on others. So a Buddha wouldn't go around and say, hey, chant these things to me out of respect to me, because this would be the arrogance or ego. So, but if you learn from a teacher how to move from the anger and the sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings to the peace and joy that is the enlightened mental state, you'd probably have a lot of respect and gratitude for that person too, because the Buddha didn't want anything from his students. He didn't expect anything from his students. He just shared what it took for him to get to that enlightened mental state. He spent 45 years from the age of 35 to 80 sharing what it takes in order to be able to get to this enlightened mental state. And countless people were getting to enlightenment enlightenment during his lifetime. So if you had learned from a teacher just out of the kindness of their heart to share these teachings with you, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So that's where I suspect these chants came from, is his students either during his life or after his death. So after the chanting, then I'll come in with some guidance. You're going to hear me guiding you in the meditation. And I'll just do that for a short period of time. I'll kind of be instructing you and teaching you while we're actually meditating at the same time. But then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just all meditating together. Everyone here at the temple and anyone who's joining us online will just all be meditating at the same time. Then we're going to come out of that meditation with some more chanting. During that period of time where it's quiet, you'll probably hear an occasional sound because you can't be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. You'll probably hear an occasional car go by. You might hear a bird chirping or a dog barking. Someone here might sneeze or cough or something like that. If your mind craves permanent silence, when you hear a sound, you'll cause your mind to be frustrated or annoyed. You need to be able to understand that the world that you live in is impermanent. It's constantly changing. You're not going to be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. So if you don't have a craving for permanent quietness, when we're meditating, if you hear a sound, you can just understand that that is impermanent. It's going to arise. It's going to change. It's going to fade away. It's temporary. And you don't need to be annoyed if you hear those kinds of things because that's normal. That's the way that the world works. So we'll do that meditation, and then that's where, oh, wow. So after the meditation, that's where we will then start today's class, and I will help you to understand the teachings of the Buddha and what this program is all about. In terms of your body positioning for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And at different times, you'll learn these different positions. In fact, as part of this program, I'll be teaching those positions to be able to help students to understand what those are and how to actually use them. But typically, students are starting out in the seated position. So I'll give you some guidance on the seated position to help you find something that's comfortable for you. And then that way, you'll know at least a little bit about the seated position and how to actually use it, because this is where people usually start. In terms of your position during meditation, there isn't just one fixed position. Even in the seated position, there isn't just one position, because everybody's body is a little bit different and we'll find different things to be comfortable. So when I share with you this guidance about the seated position, it's important for you to understand that there are things for you to consider. There are recommendations, there are suggestions, but ultimately you need to find what's comfortable for you. So even if there's something that I don't share and you find that to be comfortable, use it, because this practice is about training the mind. It's not about training the body. So what I share with you here about the body position is just for recommendations or suggestions for you to consider. You can be sitting on the floor. You could sit in a chair. If you're at home, you might be on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair or something like this. These are all common ways that someone might choose to sit. If you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This will kind of soften your seat a bit. And then if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you like to do that lightly, where if they're real tight, it can impede the circulation and cause pain in your lower body. And you're not interested in having pain in the body. Sometimes people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets their hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles and allows the circulation to flow. So that's an option for you as well. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it. But remember, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. So some people might choose to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you find whatever's comfortable with your hands and arms. In terms of anybody who might be sitting in a chair or a sofa or a bench or a wheelchair, oftentimes people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles. But you can see me, I'm sitting here in a chair with my legs crossed. So this is an option for you too. Again, there's not just one way to do this. And then the same thing for anybody in a chair, that you could put your hands and arms wherever you're comfortable. In terms of the upper body, it's helpful if this is erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back. It'll keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. And you would like the mind to be attentive and alert during this period of time. So by having your sternum up and your shoulders back, it'll keep your mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind could be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So by having the sternum up and the shoulders back, it keeps the upper body erect and the mind attentive and alert. And it also helps you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to ease us into meditation with the chanting, which you guys are welcome to join in on. And then I'll come back in with the guidance after that. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Wat Tung Bhagavanang Apivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatava Manusanang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาโพตังมหาเกวันนังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนัมสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวัตโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาธัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามานุสนังโอโตภะคะวะติ If you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation, once again, I'd like to just welcome all of you guys here at the temple. Welcome to everyone online who's joining us as well. As I mentioned, today is the restart of our group learning program where we're starting from the very beginning. This is the breathing mindfulness meditation. This is a meditation that we're going to be doing each class at the very beginning of our class. And if you experienced a bombardment of thoughts, or if you had where you were indulging in a thought and following it for a period of time and realizing like, oh yeah, I'm meditating, let me bring my mind back to the breath, this stuff is completely normal. When you're first starting out on the path, training your mind, you're going to notice that you sometimes have a bombardment of thoughts. It's like thought, or you might indulge in a thought and follow it for a period of time before you realize like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back to the breath. So if you experience this kind of stuff, it's very normal. I'm going to be teaching meditation in detail starting this Wednesday. Actually, tomorrow I have a course that's starting. It's a 5-day course. It's called The Foundation and the Path to Enlightenment, where you can learn in 5 days the real foundational teachings from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. each day. So if you guys would like to come to that, you're more than welcome. You can come to any portion of that you like. But in terms of this program, the group learning program, I'm going to be teaching meditation starting on a Wednesday evening. As part of this group learning program, I'm going to do a 4-part series on breathing mindfulness meditation, teaching you all the ins and outs of meditation. But I'd just like to give you a heads up that if you're meditating, just starting out your practice, that a bombardment of thoughts or indulging in a thought, this is very normal because the mind's not well disciplined. So therefore, it's going to have these kinds of challenges. So don't be dissuaded that somehow you're bad at meditation or something like that. That's the actual justification of exactly why you need to meditate, because your mind is having so many random thoughts, or you are indulging in thoughts and you don't have this discipline of the mind. So turning away from meditation isn't going to help you to do better at meditation, right? So this is just something to keep in mind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you what are the teachings of the Buddha, what the teachings of the Buddha are not, and then I'm going to go in and explain to you what this group learning program is and how you can get the most benefit out of it. As we go throughout our class today, you guys are welcome to ask any and all questions that you like. Whether you're here at the temple or you're online, you can ask questions. If you'd like to ask questions here at the temple, we have microphones in the white bowl here in the center of the room. Just get a microphone, press the gray button, wait till the lights come on, hold that up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online. If you speak here without a microphone, the people online won't be able to hear you. And you're welcome to keep these microphones with you because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share the microphone with them. And then anybody who's online, you can ask questions by putting that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comments section, and I'll be able to see that. Or in Zoom, there's a way for you to electronically raise your hand. You can unmute your microphone, and then you can ask any and all questions that you like. So the way that I'm going to get us started here is I'm going to introduce you to the teachings of the Buddha, helping you to understand them from afar, because individuals who are interested in progressing on this path to enlightenment, they might be interested to know what are the teachings of the Buddha, what are they like? So we're going to kind of look at them from afar. And the way that we're going to start that is just talk about what is a Buddha. Right? This is a good place to start, is just to understand what is an actual Buddha. A Buddha is an individual that we refer to as fully, perfectly enlightened. This individual has gotten to the enlightened mental state by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. This is what a Buddha is able to accomplish, that they can train their mind and get to this enlightened mental state. And we're going to talk about what enlightenment is here in a moment. So an individual who's gotten to enlightenment by themselves meets the first criteria of being an actual Buddha. The second criteria is that they would dedicate the rest of their life to sharing their independently discovered teachings with countless people. And countless people will get to enlightenment during that person's lifetime. The third criteria is that that individual is going to preserve their teachings in such a way that countless more people will get to enlightenment after their death. So these are the three main primary criteria that makes a Buddha a Buddha. They get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. They dedicate the rest of their life to sharing their independently discovered teachings with countless people, and countless people will get to enlightenment during that person's lifetime. Then they will preserve their teachings in such a way that countless more people will get to enlightenment after their death. So you can see from this that you'll be able to get to enlightenment, but you won't be a Buddha at that point. A Buddha is very rare in the world. The Buddha describes how rare this is. The last Buddha that the world is currently aware of existed over 2,500 years ago. And it's important for you to understand that, because then you understand that you need teachers and you need guides to be able to help you. You're the one who's doing the work, where a teacher is kind of like a tour guide, pointing out for you the things that you need to do in order to get to enlightenment. You're not a follower, you're not a devotee or anything like that. You're an independent practitioner who's looking for the truth and cultivating the mind to acquire wisdom. And a teacher is like a tour guide pointing those things out for you. But you don't have certain capabilities that a Buddha does in order to get to enlightenment by themselves. This is very rare in the world to have a Buddha. So sometimes people today will say that everybody's a Buddha. You might hear this from certain people. Well, the Buddha never actually said that. The Buddha shared how rare it is that an individual would be in the world and actually be a Buddha. There's other criteria of what makes a Buddha, that they have a profound memory. They're able to recall countless details about their current life and their past lives too. This is what actually allows them to get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides, because they have this ability to remember countless details, and they apply all that wisdom in their last life to be able to move their mind to enlightenment in that last life. The way you might think about this is the average person, an average human being, we all have like a hard drive in our mind, essentially. We have a certain capacity to be able to store memories and store the things that we are experiencing. And so let's just say you have 500 gigabytes or 1 terabyte of memory. Some people might say you only have 1 megabyte or maybe 1 gigabyte or something like that, but that's okay. That can improve. You can improve that, right? But let's just say you have this limited capacity in your mind. The reason why you'll know this is true is because right now, maybe in the last 5 or 10 years, you probably have pretty good recall about the things that you've been doing and what you've been up to in the last 5 or 10 years. But if you think back to your childhood, you just have spotty memories. And this is because you have a limited capacity in your mind. You've had to delete your old files in order to store new files. As you're experiencing new things, you have to delete these old files in order to store new files. And that's why you just have spotty memories about what's happened in your childhood. An individual who's going to become a Buddha, even in the unenlightened state, they will have a profound memory. They can remember countless details, crisp details about what's going on in their current life and what's happened in their previous lives, to be able to bring that wisdom to bear in order to apply it to be able to get to enlightenment on their own without the help of any teachers or any guides. So this is the one quality that makes an individual who's going to be a Buddha unique. But otherwise, your mind functions just like everybody else's mind, including a Buddha. The contents that are in your mind is unique to you, but the way your mind functions is exactly the same as every other being. So the Buddha had this deep, profound memory to be able to bring forth all this wisdom to then apply it and actually figure out how to get to enlightenment on his own without the help of any teachers or any guides. An individual who's a Buddha can quickly determine the condition of someone else's mind, and then they're able to offer them teachings that can help them to be able to move closer to enlightenment themselves. But they only do that with people who are students and that are interested in learning and growing and developing. They're not going to just go into somebody's life and give them unsolicited guidance, because that would be ego, that would be conceit, that would be arrogance. If you're prying into someone's life and telling them what they should or shouldn't be doing in their life, that's coming from one's own mind's ego. And you need to eliminate that and dissolve that in order to make your way to enlightenment, where you're not viewing yourself as above people or below people. So an individual who's a Buddha can understand the mind of somebody else and actually provide them teachings to be able to help them get to enlightenment. This is one of the reasons why, if you study with a Buddha, they're very effective at being able to help people get to enlightenment. The student themselves needs to do the work, but an individual who's a Buddha would be able to help their students very closely to be able to get to enlightenment through observing the quality of their mind and then offering them teachings that could be helpful for them. And then lastly, an individual who's a Buddha, they're going to be a living, breathing, walking example of their teachings. Whatever they teach, they're going to be practicing those same things, because a Buddha is wise enough to understand that their students are learning just as much through their spoken words as they are through their actions. So a Buddha is teaching through their actions as well, not just their spoken words, because their students can be observing this individual to determine how to be able to conduct themselves in day-to-day life. So a Buddha is going to be a living, breathing, walking example of their teachings. Whatever they're teaching, that's what they're practicing as well in their day-to-day life. So this is what a Buddha is, and we refer to this individual as fully, perfectly enlightened. And the reason why is because if you learn from a teacher who's not a Buddha, for example, there might be certain things that led to your enlightenment that you've learned and you've understood and you've been practicing, but there's certain things that your mind might be holding on to that aren't actually leading to your enlightenment. So maybe like 80 or 90% of what you've learned actually led to your enlightenment, but there's kind of like this extra baggage that's around that didn't actually lead to your enlightenment, but you're still doing it just out of respect for your teacher, perhaps. So an individual who's a Buddha, they don't have teachers, they don't have guides. So if they try a meditation, for example, that they thought of, and they try that meditation and it doesn't work to improve the quality of their mind, they will discard it. They will toss it to the side. So by the time they get to enlightenment, what they understand is the path to enlightenment. They understand that very clear inside and out. And they spend the rest of their life putting down lights along the side of the path and illuminating it for everyone else to be able to make this walk towards enlightenment, where they can gradually train their mind to get to enlightenment. So this is why we call an individual who's a Buddha fully, perfectly enlightened, because they don't have this extra baggage around and their mind is fully awake, being able to understand the path very clearly. So this is what a Buddha is. In terms of what the teachings of the Buddha are, is they are a path to attaining enlightenment in this life and through purification of the mind. What you're doing is training your mind and purifying it of certain pollutions that the Buddha discovered. He discovered these 10 individual pollutions, and then he figured out the tools and techniques of how to eliminate it. And he did this on his own mind first, and when he could see that it actually worked, then that's when he actually started teaching it to other people. These 10 individual pollutions, we refer to them as the 10 fetters. I'm going to be talking about this when we get to chapter 3 of our group learning program and in the book. These 10 fetters, we refer to them as a fetter because during the lifetime of the Buddha, they would put a fetter around your ankle in order to keep you confined in a certain area. Like if you were a criminal, they would attach a shackle and a chain and a ball around your ankle, and they would turn you out on a field, and then that would basically keep you confined to that particular area. Where today we put prisoners in jail cells and prison cells and things like this. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they would attach a fetter around your ankle, and that would keep you trapped in that particular area. So when the Buddha discovered these pollutions, he referred to them as a fetter, the 10 fetters. And it's when you eliminate these 10 fetters that the mind is now free, that you'll notice that the mind is peaceful and joyful, that your mind no longer experiences any of these discontent feelings like sadness, anger, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of these feelings and others can be eliminated from the mind. Oftentimes what people think is that these feelings are being caused by other people. This is something that your mind might be currently believing, but this isn't actually true. And I'm going to teach you next Sunday, if you guys end up attending class, something called the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths is the very first, most beginning teaching of the Buddha, where in 4 simple statements, you can understand the problem in the mind, the cause of that problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. And this is a way that you can learn and independently verify for yourself what is actually causing these feelings. Because as long as you go around thinking other people are causing these feelings, you will never solve your anger. You will always be frustrated and agitated the rest of your life because you'll keep blaming other people for what you're experiencing. And you can't go around the world and train 8 billion people to do things your way. So if you continue to hold on to that belief that other people are causing you to be angry, you'll just continue to be angry and frustrated and have stress and anxiety your entire life. But when you train your own mind, understanding that your feelings are actually coming from your own mind, then you can apply a real solution to the real problem and you can actually fix it. So that's what the Buddha is actually going to be able to teach you how to do. So these feelings can actually all be eliminated from the mind by training the mind. And when you get to this enlightened mental state and purifying the mind, it's a permanent mental state. Your mind will never experience anger and frustration ever again. It's physically impossible for the enlightened mind to experience any of these feelings. And you can experience this during your life, or you can attain it at death as well. But obviously, it's much better to attain it during your life because then you can enjoy the rest of your life in this enlightened mental state. You'll notice that because you've purified the mind of these pollutions, that there's a high degree of focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory in the mind because the mind's now performing optimally. So if you find it hard to remember things or you're lacking concentration in your day-to-day life, this is just because your mind has these pollutions. And when you cultivate the wisdom of how to train your mind and uproot these pollutions, you can actually experience improvement in the way that the mind functions. You'll notice that you have deep wisdom about the world around you, where you can be polite, kind, friendly, and respectful to all beings. Right now, you might find that challenging. You might find certain situations with your parents or your brothers and sisters or your coworkers or your life partner or your children or people like this where you might have difficulties being polite, kind, friendly, and respectful. Maybe even people that you just see, random people. You might notice that you're impolite, unkind, unfriendly, and disrespectful. But that is all coming from your own mind. You can transform that. You can get to a point where you're functioning wisely around other individuals. And by you putting out this politeness, kindness, friendliness, and respect, you'll see that that's what comes back to you. But as long as you're putting out the bitterness and the harshness and the hostility, that's what's going to come back to you. So the Buddha is going to help you to be able to see how to transform this so that more and more you can experience politeness, kindness, friendliness, and respect in your life. You won't be causing harm in the world. And because of this, this is where you'll see that your personal and professional relationships are at ease. They'll really be blossoming. Because as long as you're bitter and harsh and hostile in your relationships, all that stuff's going to come back to you. You can look at the relationships that you're in where you have bitterness and hostility, and you can see that those people tend to be that same way with you. But if you improve your mind in the way you function in these situations, you'll improve what you experience on a day-to-day basis. You can get to the point where you're not even in a bad mood any longer, that the mind is bright and cheerful and uplifted, that there's gladness in the mind at all times, that it'll be physically impossible for you to actually experience a bad mood by the time you get to enlightenment. The way that this is all occurring, as I mentioned, is through purifying the mind of the 10 fetters, eliminating these pollutions of the mind. When we talk about them in detail, we talk about them as the 10 fetters. And again, I'm going to introduce you to that when we get to chapter 3 of this program. But when we talk about them as a high level, we describe them as the 3 unwholesome roots, or the 3 poisons, or the 3 fires. This is craving, anger, and ignorance. And I'm going to be teaching this when we get to chapter 8 of our book. So what craving, anger, and ignorance is, just as kind of like a little introduction, this is where the mind has this unwholesome quality of longing, yearning, and craving, and chasing after the object of its affection, thinking that the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. So the mind chases it and chases it and chases it. The mind thinks, I need more money. That's what's going to make my life better. Let me get more money. And now you chase it and 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 chase it. And if you get it, you're happy. But if you don't, you're angry or sad or frustrated. Or then the mind might be, I know what I need. I need a new boyfriend or girlfriend. That'll fix everything in my life. Let me chase one of those. So now the mind might chase one of those. And again, if you get one, you're happy. But if you don't, then you're angry or sad or frustrated. Or, I know what I need. A new job, a new house, a new car. That's what'll fix everything. Let me get this external thing. And this is what's going to help me to be happy all the time. But this isn't actually true. As soon as your mind does that, you're actually sabotaging your ability to be happy permanently, because your mind is attaching or clinging to a certain object, and it's trying to get its happiness from something external. And that external thing is not permanent. So for example, if you get so happy when it's sunny outside, that means your happiness is not permanent, because as soon as it starts raining, you'd be sad or frustrated. Or if you get so happy when your bank account balance is up here, when it changes and it goes down here, you'll be sad and frustrated, right? So you can see that this change that the mind is experiencing, it doesn't like it because it craves permanence. It wants things to be permanent. The craving, the desire, the attachment, the wants and expectations, this is internal in the mind. This is the longing, yearning, wanting something to be permanent. So if you've ever been in the mall and you were like, oh, look at those new pair of shoes. Oh, I can't wait to get those on my feet. Oh, they're going to look so great. Or, oh, look at that jewelry or that video game or that brand new mobile phone. Oh, I just want to get that thing so bad. It's going to make me feel so wonderful. I want that thing. Well, if you go into the store and they have your shoes, you'll be so happy. Yay, I got my new shoes. I can't wait for everybody to see my new shoes. This is going to be great. Right? But if you go in the store and they don't have your size, you'll be frustrated. You'll be angry and irritated. That's because of the craving, desire, attachment. The mind is longing, yearning, wanting things to be a certain way. And if the mind gets what it wants, it gets pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But if it doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. So when that anger is arising, that's very painful for the mind. And it attributes this anger, these painful feelings, to something external. And what you tend to do in that unenlightened state is you tend to act unskillfully, because the mind thinks that this anger is coming from something external, so it will tend to push people away. This is called aversion. You might have pushed your friends or family members out of your life, or you might have pushed a certain situation out of your life, thinking that that was going to solve the problem. But you can see it didn't solve the problem because you still get annoyed, you still get frustrated, you still get agitated. If that was the true cause of your problem, when you push that person or that situation out of your life, you'd be peaceful. It'd be done. It'd be over with because you've solved your problem. But when you push that person or that situation out of your life, it didn't solve your problem because you still get annoyed, you still get frustrated. Or the other thing you might do is when you're experiencing that anger and frustration, those painful feelings, is you might be bitter and harsh and hostile to other people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal, trying to fear that being into doing things your way. Do things my way. That's the mind trying to get its cravings fulfilled, right? So if you're being bitter, harsh, and hostile to people, they're not going to be interested in spending time with you. They're going to potentially go away from you. You can see where relationships have ended when you've been bitter and harsh and hostile to people. Or the third thing that the unenlightened mind will tend to do when it falsely understands what's happening and that this anger is actually being caused by your own mind is you'll tend to put expectations on people, trying to control other people, trying to force them to do things your way. And as long as you're doing these kinds of things, you can't live harmoniously with all beings. You'll be pushing people away because it's only a matter of time before you encounter someone who does things differently than you. If you can only spend time with people who do things your way, there's only one person in the world that does things your way all the time. Do you know who that person is? Who's the person who does things your way all the time? Yourself, right? Yeah, you're the only one, right? So if you can only spend time with people who do things your way, then that means you're only ever going to spend time with one person in the world. So if you push away anybody who doesn't do things your way, then you can't live harmoniously with all beings. Or if you're being bitter and harsh and hostile to them, or if you're putting expectations on them and trying to control them to do things your way. Because see, with the unenlightened mind, there's something called the ego that is in the mind. This is the arrogance, the pride, thinking I am right and everybody else around me is doing things the wrong way. And now they need to do it my way, and it's the right way, and their way is the wrong way. So as long as your ego is in there, which it will be up until you get to enlightenment, you're going to think that everyone else is doing things the wrong way, and now I need to convince them to do it my way, or else I'm going to push them away. I'm going to be bitter, harsh, and hostile, or put my expectations on them. So as long as your mind has this cravings, this longing, this yearning, in some cases you're going to get what you want, which is the pleasant feelings. In other situations, you're going to get the painful feelings. And when those painful feelings are arising, you're going to falsely attribute those to something external, push people away, be bitter, harsh, and hostile, or put expectations on people. And this just drives people away, and you can't live harmoniously with all people. And you might notice you're having broken relationship after broken relationship after broken relationship. And where this is coming from is this third one. Oftentimes people translate it as ignorance. I like to use the unknowing of true reality, because the word ignorance is kind of like a derogatory word, and a Buddha doesn't speak that way. So oftentimes people are translating the words of the Buddha through their own unenlightened mind, and they might think that a Buddha would refer to someone as ignorant or stupid or as a fool. But an enlightened being doesn't speak that way. They don't talk in degrading and diminishing ways towards others. So a better way to think about this third one is the unknowing of true reality, or confusion, or this misunderstanding or misperceptions or lack of wisdom. That because the mind has a lack of wisdom in the unenlightened state, it continues to think and believe that the problem is external. And as long as it keeps thinking that way, it will never solve the problem. So this lack of wisdom is allowing the craving and anger to continue to exist in the mind. Because as long as you don't know what the cause of the problem is, the problem will continue. So that's why on the path to enlightenment, there's no belief in the teachings of the Buddha. You're learning, growing, developing, examining the teachings, independently verifying them, and practicing them so you can get the wisdom, because that's what's going to antidote this ignorance. So even though we call it craving, anger, and ignorance, it's really because of ignorance that craving and anger continues to exist in the mind. If it wasn't for this ignorance or this lack of wisdom, craving and anger would have already been extinguished. So you need to be able to cultivate wisdom. And the cultivation of wisdom is more than just intellectual. There's a certain amount of intellectual understanding that you need on this path to enlightenment and that you cultivate over time. But then you need to move the teachings into your reflection, where you independently verify what's true or false. But then you need to practice the teachings. Practicing the teachings is where you're making wiser and wiser decisions based on having learned these teachings. So for example, we might have learned growing up intellectually that it's unwise to use drugs and alcohol, for example, right? But we still did it, perhaps, because we made decisions based on our ignorance or the unknowing of true reality, where you can understand something intellectually, that something is unwise, but you still do it. And that's because of the lack of wisdom, this misunderstanding or this ignorance. So what you're doing is you're eliminating this craving, anger, and ignorance in the mind, purifying the mind of these pollutions and these 10 fetters, and that's what's now moving it to enlightenment. And while we call it attaining enlightenment, you might think about it like the mind is already enlightened and you need to get these pollutions out of the way. And when you get these pollutions out of the way, you'll be able to experience these qualities of enlightenment where the mind is bright and cheerful and radiant and uplifted. Because if you have a sun and then you have the clouds in front of the sun, if you peel those clouds back slowly, the rays of the sun will start shining through. And that's what you're going to see when you're training your mind, you're getting these pollutions out of the mind, that as you're gradually training your mind, you're peeling away these pollutions and the rays of the sun start shining through. The qualities of enlightenment start shining through. It's not like you're going to do work for like 5 or 6 years on the path and then there's like a switch that flips and now all of a sudden you're enlightened. That's not the way it works. This is one of the misunderstandings about the life story of the Buddha, is people think he sat under a tree, he meditated, and then instantly got to enlightenment. And this isn't actually true. If you understand his teachings and you read his teachings and you verify his teachings, you can see where he talks about gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. That's what actually leads to enlightenment. It took the Buddha 6 years to get to enlightenment. And you can know that this is true because anything that you've ever done in life has been this way. Whether it's learning a certain language or whether it's a job or occupation, it was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that has led to you being able to understand English, for example, even as a native speaker. It was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. So this is what needs to happen for the mind to gradually move these pollutions out of the way and then start seeing the qualities of enlightenment shine through more and more. What the Buddha is teaching you in order to cultivate this wisdom and get rid of these pollutions is something called the natural laws of existence. These natural laws are affecting you whether you're aware of it or not. When we were first growing up as a little child, the natural law of gravity was affecting us whether we were aware of it or not. And we really struggled with this natural law of gravity. We fell down, we hit our head, we broke our toys, we might have busted our knees open and we started bleeding or whatever it was. We really struggled with this natural law of gravity because we did not understand this natural law. At 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, we were still struggling with this natural law. But slowly but surely, we cultivated wisdom of this natural law. And you might say now you're fully awake to the natural law of gravity, because now you might tie your shoes kind of tight. You look at the surface of the sidewalk as you're walking. You stopped being so giddy and bouncing around as a kid all the time. And now you're at the point where you can climb ladders, you can ride bicycles, you can get on airplanes and travel all over the world. This natural law is affecting you whether you're aware of it or not. And you didn't believe in this natural law. You actually saw it for yourself. You can see, there it is, the natural law of gravity, right? You're not believing in this natural law. You can actually see it for yourself. So there's other natural laws that are affecting you in this world, whether you're aware of it or not. And when you lack wisdom of them, you will struggle, you will have difficulties. That's what the anger and the sadness and the stress and anxiety and all those other things are. It's the mind struggling because it's living in a world that it doesn't understand. Just like with the natural law of gravity, you used to get angry or frustrated or agitated when you would fall down. But then slowly but surely, you cultivated this wisdom, and now you don't struggle with the natural law of gravity anymore. You understand it. In fact, if you fell down now, you might actually start laughing, right? Because you think it might be funny, right? But when we were a child, that wasn't the case because we didn't understand. So there's other natural laws that are affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. And that's why you can't believe in these natural laws. These natural laws, if you believed in them, you don't know what's true or false, because somebody maybe convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. And you don't know what's true or false. And you're basing your decision making in something that you don't know to be true. It's just a belief. So you need to get to wisdom where you can understand these natural laws very clearly and you can see the truth for yourself. So that's why you're learning, examining, and investigating the teachings. You're reflecting on them to independently verify them, and then you're practicing the teachings, integrating them into your life in order to train your mind and uproot these pollutions. The main natural law that you're awakening to is called the natural law of Gama. You might have heard the word karma being used. This is the Sanskrit version of this word. The Pali version, which the original teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language, the word Gama is being used. If this translated to just one English word, I would use that because it'd be easier for everyone, but it doesn't translate to just one English word, so I still need to use this word Gama. What this means is it means cause and effect, or action and result, the results of your decisions. When you make decisions either wisely or unwisely, it's going to produce either wholesome results or wholesome Gama, or unwholesome results or unwholesome Gama. There's nothing mystical and magical in the teachings of the Buddha. This natural law is not anything about mystical, magical stuff. It's not about punishments and rewards. There's no being who's overseeing this natural law and deciding who gets what. There's no entity or anything like that. This natural law is just functioning, just like gravity. Nobody turns it on, nobody turns it off. It's just functioning. And the same thing with the natural law of Gama. So it's not punishments and rewards. It's about the results of your decisions. And any decisions that you make are going to produce a certain result. And when you lack wisdom of a natural law, just like with the natural law of gravity, you will tend to make unwise decisions inadvertently without even realizing that you're making unwise decisions. And those unwise decisions are going to lead to unwholesome results or unwholesome Gama. And what the mind tends to do in the unenlightened state when you're experiencing unwholesome results is you tend to blame other people for those results that you're experiencing. Someone might say they have good luck or bad luck, or it's destiny or fate, or they might think that it's God or some other entity that's controlling what it is that they experience, or they'll blame other people for the things that they're experiencing in life. And as long as you go around and do this, you're resigning yourself to continue to experience those things over and over and over and over again, because it's certain decisions that you're making that's leading to any particular result that you experience. So if it's good luck or bad luck, or destiny or fate, or it's God or some other entity, or it's other people that are causing you to experience something in your life, that means you're locked in, that you can't change anything about your life, because you can't change good luck or bad luck. You can't change destiny or fate. You can't change God or some other entity. And you can't change other people to do things your way. So if you resign yourself to this type of thinking, you're relegating yourself to continue to experience unwholesome things over and over and over again. But if you can awaken to this natural law and you can see the truth that what you're experiencing is a result of decisions that you're making, now if there's anything that you don't particularly care for that's going on in your life, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. That's what the Buddhist path is all about, is learning wisdom, gaining the wisdom of this natural law, making different decisions, and experiencing different results. And this is how you can cultivate the wisdom to be able to now improve what you experience in your day-to-day life. If you don't see what I'm sharing with you, that what you experience is based on your decisions, ask yourself these questions. Who chose where you're sitting right now? Who chose that? Who chose the clothing that you're wearing right now? Who chose the hairstyle that you have? Who chose where you live? Who chose whether you have a job or occupation or not? Who chooses the friends that you spend time with? Who's made all these choices? All these choices are actually coming from you. So if there's anything that you don't particularly care for that's going on in your life, and you would rather that thing not occur, cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. So that's what the natural law of Gama is all about, is learning, reflecting to independently verify, and practicing to cultivate this wisdom about this natural law, so that now as you're making wiser and wiser decisions, you will experience more and more wholesome results in your life. So the Buddha didn't explain the way the world should be, and that if everybody follows certain rules and commandments, then the world will become a peaceful place. That's not what the Buddha did. He didn't explain the way the world should be. He explained the way the world is. And by understanding the way the world is and awakening to that wisdom, now you can navigate the world peacefully and joyfully. But as long as you don't understand the way the world is, you will struggle and have difficulties. That's what those feelings of stress and anxiety and all that is the mind just lacking wisdom, and now it's struggling and having difficulties making decisions. So this path to enlightenment is to experience complete peace and joy through the acquiring of wisdom of the natural laws of existence, and then improving the quality of the mind through eradicating the pollutions of the mind and uprooting these pollutions out of the mind, which you'll learn about when we get to chapter 3. What the teachings of the Buddha are is that they're timeless. The teachings that he taught 2,500 years ago are the exact same natural laws that exist today. These natural laws don't change. So whatever he taught 2,500 years ago to explain these natural laws, they directly apply to what you're experiencing today. And when you can see that, you'll be able to then apply them and experience the improvements that he talks about. Because his teachings are very clear, very concise, and very precise. His teachings aren't stuck in a cultural past. They're actually timeless when you start learning his actual teachings. The Buddha did teach the cycle of rebirth, and he taught 5 realms of existence: hell, animal, afflicted spirits, human realm, and the heavenly realm. Now, you heard me share earlier that there's nothing in the teachings of the Buddha based in belief, including these things here. The cycle of rebirth and the 5 realms of existence, there's no belief in these things whatsoever. You can actually independently verify the cycle of rebirth and the 5 realms of existence. You might not have that wisdom of how to do that right now, but you can acquire that wisdom as part of learning and growing on this path. Right now, you might be believing that you only have one life, but you don't have any evidence of that. Right? You might just be believing it because right now you might not be able to understand or know of your past lives. But when you start training your mind and you start lifting this pollution out of your mind, it's potentially possible for you to be able to observe your past lives. In our book series, out of these 13 books, in volume 11, chapter 105, I have 17 different criteria there for you to independently verify the cycle of rebirth. But it's in volume 11, chapter 105 for a reason, because you don't need to approach that at the very beginning of your path, right? This is something that's happened in the past, the cycle of rebirth. It's happened in the past. You don't have to look at it at this point in time. And what may or may not happen in the future, it's happened in the future. None of these things matter right now. What matters is right now, in the present moment, your mind's discontent. And if you're angry or sad or frustrated, you would like to solve that. But the Buddha did teach these for a reason, because he's teaching you how the world truly is. And if you started to train your mind and uproot these pollutions, and you started having vivid memories of your past lives, like say you started remembering in your mind being murdered, and you started having these vivid memories of being murdered. And of course, that didn't happen in this life because you're still alive. And if you started having this continuous memories that were just repeating over and over and over in your mind, you could be really disturbed by that if you didn't understand that that was your past lives, and you can just set it to the side. So the Buddha taught this for a reason. He taught these 5 realms of existence for a reason as well, because once again, it's true and it's actually what's happening. And as you awaken your mind to enlightenment, you might actually see some of these beings. Some people can actually see them, right? They're formless beings, like in hell, the afflicted spirit realm, this is ghosts. And then the heavenly realm is heavenly beings. They're formless beings, but some people can actually see them. And if you started seeing these things in the world around you and you didn't understand that's the way the world is, it could really potentially make you think you're going crazy for seeing these kinds of things. So he taught this for a reason. And then some people can actually hear communication from these beings. And once again, you could think you're going crazy if you started hearing these things and didn't understand that these are just beings in other realms. Because while we talk about these realms, and some people think about hell being deep down in the core of the earth, or heaven being way up in the sky somewhere, in reality, all these beings are in the same time and space. Just like there's a human being sitting in this chair, and I could get up and leave, and then there could be an animal that comes in and sits in this chair. The same thing is true with these hell beings, these afflicted spirits, and these heavenly beings. They're all in the same time and space. And just like you're at a restaurant and 2 tables over, somebody could be talking and you just ignore that conversation, You can learn to do the same thing with these beings that are trying to communicate with you from other realms. But if you didn't understand how to do that, you could think you're going crazy in these situations. So the Buddha taught these things for a reason, but I suggest you just set it aside because it's not important right now when you're at the beginning of the path. There will be a time and place where you might decide to approach this and learn it and understand it. The Buddha also did teach about God. Sometimes people are not understanding this. Sometimes you'll hear people share that the Buddha rejected God or denied the existence of God. This isn't actually true. And for someone who shares that, they haven't really deeply penetrated into the original teachings of the Buddha. So if you look at the original teachings of the Buddha, he does teach about this being of God, but he doesn't make God as a central role in his teachings because it's not God who determines whether you get to enlightenment or not. It's you that determines whether you get to enlightenment. So he didn't put God at the center of his teachings. He put you at the center of his teachings because it's you that's growing, learning, and developing on the path. So there's no worship or rites or rituals or ceremonies. You don't have to be afraid of this being. You don't have to think that this being is punishing you or anything like that. But if you would like to have a relationship with this being and still get to enlightenment, it is possible for you to be able to do that. If you're disinterested in having a relationship with this being, you can still get to enlightenment in that way too. There's just certain things that you need to learn. And when we get to chapter 18 of this program, I'm going to teach you about this being and how to either have a relationship with this being or not have a relationship with this being and still actually get to enlightenment. The teachings of the Buddha are the largest, most complete collection of his teachings are assembled in what's called the Pali Canon. This is 45 volumes of books that are about this thick. The average person actually doesn't have access to the Pali Canon, particularly here in Thailand, because it's about 3 months of your salary to print that out here in Thailand. And you probably don't own any book collections that is valued at 3 months of your salary. So the average Thai person, the average temple, doesn't actually even have access to the original teachings of the Buddha. And this is why we see so many misunderstandings in the world, because people aren't studying with the original teachings. But what we've done in this book series is we've consolidated it. There was a team down in Bangkok that consolidated these books into 13 books. And then what I did is I updated the word choices, added the references, added some more information to be able to help you understand how to integrate these teachings into your life. And then I give it away to students for free so that you can get access to the teachings. All you need to do is download these from our website for free. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for our printing cost, and we'll use that to purchase more books. Or you can order it on Amazon. If you have access to Amazon anywhere in the world, you can actually order these books that way. We call this book series The Words of the Buddha, The Path to Enlightenment, Revealing the Hidden, because for a long time, these teachings have been hidden. Not intentionally, but just because it was so expensive to print them out. And nowadays, with modern technology, we can just distribute it at no cost and give it away for free. So you guys now have access to these particular teachings, which are the original words of the Buddha, to be able to learn, and that's what's going to help you to move your mind to enlightenment. If you weren't learning with the original words of the Buddha, you wouldn't know what's true or false, and you wouldn't actually be able to train your mind to get to enlightenment. So you need to be able to have access to his original teachings. One of the ways that I think about the teachings of the Buddha is it's to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. I'll say that again. The teachings of the Buddha are to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. But what's hurting you is inside your own mind. It's not the outside world. So when you heal your own internal mind, then you will never ever hurt again, because it's impossible for an enlightened being to experience mental pain or mental anguish. It's physically impossible. So you can train your mind to get to this point where you never need to hurt ever again. So all these feelings of anger, sadness, frustration, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, and all those, that's optional. You don't have to experience those feelings. You can choose to opt out of those things. So I'm going to pause here and see if you guys have any questions on what the teachings of the Buddha are. Remember, you guys can use the mics here, and online you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand electronically in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. So does anybody here, anybody online have questions? No questions here. We have some coming in online. So Deepak is asking a question. In the natural law of Gama, who chose where one is born, what family they were born in, what resources they had at the time of birth, which gender, which health, what form of life, what kind of DNA, what kind of initial resources were, how to try to understand that. Those decisions are all coming from previous lives. When we talk about the natural law of Gama in chapter 9, I will explain that in detail. There's something called old Gama and new Gama. There's also wholesome Gama and unwholesome Gama, and I'll explain these details to you when we get to chapter 9. But it's us who's making all those types of decisions. Okay, so you have a question? Yes, ma'am. If you can get a microphone there, that'd be wonderful. I think you need to turn it on. I don't think it's on yet. There it is. Yep.
Okay. So I want to ask if you say that we previously choose what kind of family that we have. So why do we choose to come back to this world again? And then how many times until we actually don't have to come back to this world, or it's just that in Islam we know that there is kiamat, or the world will be end at some point. Mm-hmm. Is that also the teaching here?
Okay, so what's causing the mind to keep coming back over and over is the craving and clinging. As long as the mind's holding on, it's going to keep coming back. That's where, if your mind holds on to a thought, you keep thinking about that thought over and over and over and over again. It keeps coming back until you let go. Right? So the mind in the unenlightened state is having craving and clinging. It's holding on. So it keeps coming back over and over and over and over and over again. This being keeps being reborn over and over and over again. So that's what's causing the individual to be reborn. The way to escape that is to train your mind to no longer cling and hold on. And this is where the teachings of the Buddha are very unique, because as you're getting closer and closer to enlightenment, you can see the condition of your mind improving and the condition of your life improving in this life. Where when you base what you're learning on belief, you don't know whether that's true or false until you die. And then it's too late at that point. But with the teachings of the Buddha, you're learning, growing, and developing now in this life, and you can see the improvement to the condition of your mind in this life, because there's situations where you were once angry or frustrated or sad, and you can have those same exact situations, and your mind doesn't experience that anymore. So you know that your mind is awakening, because you'll see that your mind is calm and peaceful and joyful and cheerful and bright and uplifted. In terms of whether the world is finite or infinite, goes on forever, or whether there's a time when the world is over, the Buddha leaves this as an undeclared teaching, right? In terms of the world, right? Because the world, the universe, these kinds of things, he doesn't speculate about these kinds of things. Because if you just speculate about something and you don't know the truth, then you're not teaching the truth. You need to be able to know the truth. So he leaves it as an undeclared teaching. He specifically calls it out. He gets to a certain time in his teaching career where he says, remember, students, what did I teach? I taught this. The elimination of discontentedness, essentially, is what he says. And he says, remember what I did not teach. I did not teach this. And he gives 10 different things that he doesn't teach. And one of them is whether the world is eternal or whether it's not eternal. He leaves it as an undeclared teaching. But in terms of humanity, we know that humanity is not eternal, that we are not going to be here forever, because we arose, we change, and we're going to fade away. But the world itself, he doesn't describe whether that is eternal or not eternal. You're welcome. Okay, I don't see, do we have another question here? Okay, so Deepak is asking, how can we elaborate on how to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt again? That's what I'm going to do over the next 7 months. I'm going to teach you step by step, piece by piece of exactly how to train your mind, starting with next week on Sunday. That's where I'm going to dive into the Eightfold Path in detail over 3 separate classes to be able to help you understand the path. And over the next 7 months and multiple years, I'm going to gradually be helping you to be able to learn and grow and develop of how to heal your mind through training of the mind. So I'll teach you this starting next week. Okay, so now let me explain to you what the teachings of the Buddha are not, because this is a way to help you understand what the teachings of the Buddha are, is to help you understand what they are not. The teachings of the Buddha are not a collection of beliefs, doctrine, concepts, opinions, or views that will produce a pleasant afterlife if you believe in them, and an unpleasant afterlife if you don't believe in them. In fact, his teachings aren't about beliefs whatsoever. You will never hear him say, just believe me, just believe me. Instead, he says just the opposite. Come examine my teachings. Come investigate them. Because if you examine and investigate them close enough, you'll be able to see how true they are. As you're training your mind, you'll be able to learn on, reflect on them to independently verify and practice them and see the results and improvement to the condition of your mind. So there's no beliefs and there's no opinions or views here. He's explaining to you the truth that you can independently verify. So it's important to know that. Also, I don't think of the teachings of the Buddha as a religion. It depends on how you think about religion, whether you consider the teachings of the Buddha to be a religion or not. If you think of religion as like one person at the top telling everybody else what they should or shouldn't be doing, or if you think about religion as rites and rituals and ceremonies and worship, or if you think about religion as rules and commandments that everyone must follow in order to create a peaceful world, the teachings of the Buddha aren't that. The Buddha doesn't have any of those kinds of things in his teachings. There isn't one person at the top of Buddhism telling everybody else what they should or shouldn't be doing. There aren't any rites or rituals or ceremonies or worship. Even if you've been exposed to these kinds of things in the past, even related to Buddhist temples or ordained practitioners, those aren't the teachings of the Buddha. You can see in his original teachings that he never taught any rites, rituals, ceremonies, or worship, because what he's guiding you to do is cultivate wisdom. And there's no amount of water that I can sprinkle on you. There's no amount of strings that I can tie on your wrist or any of these other things that's going to help you to cultivate wisdom. So the Buddha didn't teach rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship. He taught you to cultivate wisdom. And he also didn't provide rules and commandments that everybody must follow in order to create a peaceful world. So if this is the way that you think about religion, then the teachings of the Buddha aren't a religion, because he doesn't have any of those kinds of things in his teachings. Oops. Sorry about that. So the teachings of the Buddha also are not punishments and rewards. So if you're used to that kind of speak when you're learning things like this, he doesn't have a bunch of punishments and rewards in his teachings. He's teaching you about your mind. Essentially what the teachings of the Buddha are is they're a self-help program. It's the most well-vetted self-help program you'll ever find because it's been around for 2,500 years. It's helping you do this inner work to train your mind and cultivate the mind. So it's not about punishments and rewards. It's not about mystical and magical things or superstition and auspicious things. It's also not about something to go out and attempt to force or convince other people to do. Sometimes when you learn things like this, people will send you out into the world to convince other people to do these kinds of things. And this isn't actually what the Buddha taught. He taught you to do this work on your own mind. This is for you. You don't need to go out and convince anybody to do anything at all. This is for you to grow and develop into a better and better human being. So you don't need to go out into the world and convince anybody to do anything. Just train your own mind, and that's what's going to lead to your peace and your joy. If you spend any amount of time on social media, you might see these short little catchy phrases where it'll have a certain phrase and then it'll say the Buddha. Right? And it's like, whoa, where did that come from? Well, if you research any of these little short, catchy phrases, about 99.9999% of the time, it's not even the words of the Buddha. It didn't even come from the Buddha. But people are kind of putting those on the internet. Maybe it's their thought or they saw it somewhere else, and they're kind of slapping the Buddha on there to give it credibility in the world. Well, the Buddha doesn't teach in these short little catchy phrases. He has these really long discourses, really deep, meaningful, and profound teachings. He doesn't teach in these little short, catchy phrases. So if you see those kinds of things, that's not from the Buddha. Also, the teachings of the Buddha aren't stuck in a cultural past that degrades and denigrates other people. Sometimes when people think about these kinds of things that came from so long ago, they think surely the Buddha must have denigrated women, right? Or surely the Buddha must have denigrated minorities, or surely the Buddha must have denigrated people who prefer same-gender relationships or something like this, right? The answer is no. He didn't do any of that kind of stuff. He was teaching women and men how to respect each other. He was respecting everybody. He was having love and kindness and compassion for everybody. So his teachings aren't based on a culture. His teachings are based on the natural laws, which apply all throughout the world. So you won't see these cultural past in the teachings of the Buddha. Sure, he'll tell you stories about what was happening at the time, like farming and stuff like this, but you can understand that stuff today. But he's describing the natural laws. And part of what an individual who's gotten to enlightenment does is they look at everybody as equal. So the Buddha taught everybody is equal. He didn't teach that we are above each other or below each other. He taught that everybody is equal. So his teachings aren't stuck in a cultural past that degrades or denigrates or judges other people. So do you guys have any questions on what the teachings of the Buddha are not? Any questions? Okay. I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. Okay, so just as a little bit of a summary of what I shared with you so far, is what a Buddha is they're an individual who's gotten to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. They are a human being. They then share their independently discovered teachings with countless people, and countless people will get to enlightenment during that person's lifetime. They then preserve their teachings in such a way that countless more people will get to enlightenment after their death. What the path to enlightenment is it's a journey of growing, learning, and developing, doing this inner work and purification of the mind. What enlightenment is where the mind is peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. It's a permanent mental state that you experience in this life. It's not a destination that you go to after death. It's a mental state that you experience in this life. And ultimately, what the teachings of the Buddha are, is it's to heal from what hurts you so that you never need to hurt ever again, like I shared. Okay? So now I'm going to kind of shift gears a little bit, and I'm going to share with you what this program is all about and how you can learn this better way of life that the Buddha taught. Because when the Buddha got to enlightenment, what he said is, I discovered a better way of life. Right? That's what he said. He didn't say I discovered a new religion. He said I discovered a better way of life. And you can learn that better way of life through training your mind. The way this program works is that there's an interactive, either in-person or online classes where you can gradually learn the path to enlightenment. The in-person part is here at the temple if someone would like to join at the temple, but you can also join online through Zoom, YouTube, or Facebook. You can watch it live, or you can watch the recordings. The live classes happen on Sunday and Wednesday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Thai time. And depending on your time zone, you need to figure out what time that is in your local time zone. And you can tune in through YouTube, Facebook, or through Zoom. On Sundays, I discuss a chapter in this book. And remember, you can get this at no cost. Each Sunday, I go chapter by chapter. The first few Sundays, I do kind of an overview, but then eventually by about the fifth Sunday, we're going to be starting at chapter 1, and we're going to be going chapter by chapter by chapter. I'm going to be doing a talk on the actual chapter. So if you're reading the book either before class or after class, you'll be fully informed, and you might even come to class with questions for clarification. So I'll be teaching you chapter by chapter. There's some things that are in the book that aren't in the talks. There's some things that are in the talks that aren't in the book. So a combination of the two will really help you. So on Sundays, there's going to be a discussion on the chapter, and there's going to be questions and answers where you guys can ask anything you like. On Wednesdays, I teach meditation and the chanting, and then that's where I open up to questions as well. So that's where the Wednesdays are. And if you can attend some of these classes live, great. If you would like to attend by learning on the recordings, you can do that as well. I'll give you all those details here in a moment. There's a Facebook group where I make daily posts from the book, and students ask questions from there. So if you like to get into Facebook, even if you don't use Facebook right now, you can just open an account with a little flower or a rainbow or something like that, or a butterfly. And you don't have to necessarily post anything on your own personal profile. You can just come into the Facebook group and you can learn. It's like an online classroom where students are asking questions, and I'm the only one who's answering those questions. And sometimes people learn from other people's questions. So as you learn from their questions, you can see my answers, or you can ask questions yourself or follow-up questions. There's a book, this one here. There's an audiobook of this same exact book that's available at no cost. There's a video library on YouTube. There's podcasts, which are pure audio. And then there's quizzes at the end of each chapter just to help you confirm that you've understood what it is that you need to understand before you move on to the next chapter. So you can get access to all of these things from our website. If you go to buddhadailywisdom.com, all these things are available for you at no cost. There's ongoing support where you can ask questions during in-person classes or online classes. That's one way for you to get help, is asking questions during class. You can post in the Facebook group if you would like to do that. You can send me private messages through like Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, WeChat, Line, email, any of those kinds of systems. You can send me a private message. Or you can schedule personal guidance where either in person or online, we can meet one-on-one. So it's one thing learning in class, but it's a whole nother thing relating it to your personal challenges. So if you'd like to talk, just you and I, we can sit down in person if we're in the same city, or you can go online and schedule an appointment and we'll meet in Zoom, and I'll meet you there, and then I will help you with whatever kind of challenges that you might be having. All that is available through the website. And you can take other classes, courses, and retreats that are happening throughout the month and throughout the year. Training the mind to get to enlightenment is why somebody would take this program. If you're curious, like, why would anybody even be interested in a program like this? Well, getting to enlightenment. And getting to enlightenment is the very best thing that you could ever do for yourself and for those people around you. Because as long as you're being bitter and harsh and hostile and harming the people around you, this is just causing difficulties for them, and it's causing difficulties for yourself as well. So if you would like to join this type of program, you'll be able to attain this peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind. You'll be able to eliminate the discontentedness. You'll be able to face your challenges in life with peacefulness and joy, with wisdom to be able to solve those challenges rather than struggling. You'll be able to improve your personal and professional relationships. You'll be able to get to the point where you have focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. And also, there's the elimination of this continuous rebirth, coming back into the world over and over and over again. The way that you integrate these teachings into your day-to-day life is in this way. Because if you come to these classes and you learn, okay, great. But the way that you're going to get the actual benefit of this program is to integrate these teachings into your day-to-day life. What you would like to do is take these weekly classes, either in person or online, and attend in-depth learning on an as-needed basis. The in-depth learning is like the 5-day courses or retreats that I share. And you can also learn slowly but surely like this over the weekends, right? You would like to be doing that on a regular basis, kind of like dripping the teachings into the mind. Then you'd like to be reading this book about 10 to 20 minutes a day. You don't need to sit down and read for 3 hours, because you're going to need to independently verify what you're reading in the book. And if you're reading for 2, 3, 4 hours, you're not going to be able to independently verify all the things that you've read. So just reading little by little is kind of like taking a small bite of food and chewing it and digesting it. Whereas if you take a really big bite, it's a lot harder to chew it and digest it. So if you just take small little bites each day, 10, 15, 20 minutes of reading, that's all you need. That's going to slowly help you to be able to independently verify the teachings through actually learning them. Then you would like to develop a daily practice of generosity, where you're giving and sharing with the people around you without any expectation of anything in return, because that's going to train your mind to let go. That craving, desire, attachment that is causing the mind to be discontent, the mind holds on and it becomes somewhat selfish in the unenlightened state. It's unwilling to share with other people. So you would like to share, give and share your time, effort, energy, and resources without any expectation of anything in return from other people. And this is going to help train your mind to let go. But you can do this very easily, right? Like you can hold the door open for people as you're walking into a store. You can buy fruit or vegetables for people. You can share some food with other people. But it's important to do it without any expectation of anything in return, because if you're standing there holding the door, letting somebody else go in and they don't say thank you, and you're expecting them to say thank you, you'll be frustrated, you'll be agitated or annoyed, right? The reason why I know that is because I used to do that. And I used to stand there with holding the door, expecting a thank you. And then when they don't say thank you, you're all pissed off, right? Well, that's because your mind isn't practicing pure generosity. You're having the expectation that you want something from this person. So when you're practicing generosity, you need to do it without even the expectation of a thank you, where you're just doing it in order to enhance the quality of your mind. Then you would like to be improving your moral conduct. There are certain things that you're doing right now through your speech and your actions that are causing harm to other beings. And you would like to improve that, because as long as you're causing harm to others, this harm is going to come back to you. I'm going to teach you this in about 2 weeks from now. I'm going to teach you the teachings of the Buddha on what's called right speech, right action, and right livelihood. How to clean up your moral conduct so you're no longer being bitter and harsh and hostile. You can learn it in 2 weeks, but it's going to take you multiple weeks and months to implement it slowly but surely. So you'd like to pay attention to your moral conduct and improving that using the Eightfold Path as your guide. And then you're going to need to develop a daily meditation practice, 2 to 3 times a day, building up to 30 minutes or more. And this can sometimes take 6 months, a year, or even 2 years to be able to develop this. I'm going to get this started on Wednesday, where I'm going to help you to learn the teachings of how to meditate. And then each class, I'll be meditating with you and guiding you so that you then on your own can build up your meditation practice. So if right now you meditate for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, okay, just start there. That's all you need to be doing right now. But over time, gradually build this up to be longer. And this can seem like a lot of time for someone. They're like, oh my goodness, where am I going to find 30 minutes 2 or 3 times a day? Right? Well, right now, there's probably certain unbeneficial things that you're doing that if you clear those things out of your life, you'll find that you actually have quite a bit of time to do these kinds of things. You just need to prioritize this kind of thing. And that's why you need to slowly build up to it. You can't just snap your fingers and instantly implement this stuff in one day. And then over time, as needed, seek guidance with a teacher. I'm here to help you. I'm motivated. I'm encouraged. I have ambition and enthusiasm to see each and every one of you be able to experience this enlightened mental state. So anytime that you need guidance, day or night, you can reach out to me and I'm here to help you. I don't necessarily reply back to you right away as soon as you send me a message, but I will reply to you. I will help you as you have questions. So feel free to reach out and I will help you as you have questions. This is the book that I've been talking about. Just kind of show it on the screen for those of you guys online and here. Like I mentioned, you can get it on our website. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can get it on Amazon. This is going to be your guide for this program. And you'll probably read this book multiple times. I have some students who have been studying with me for multiple years. They've told me that they've read this like 8 or 12 times. And every single time they're learning something new each time that they read the book. So it's just like a good movie that every time you watch this movie, you see little details that you didn't see previously. So this book is that kind of way that you'd like to read it multiple times. So downloading this book and starting to read it will be really helpful. As I mentioned, I'm going to be in chapter 1 about 5 weeks from now. So you can start reading the preface and some of the other stuff. And then when you're ready, you can start reading chapter 1. And I'll kind of give you a heads up on that as we get closer to chapter 1. So I'm going to be covering 1 chapter per week. As I mentioned, on Sunday and Wednesday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then you can watch the replay available either on YouTube, Facebook, or on our podcast. This is an independent journey. This is an independent study where you're reading the book or using the audiobook, watching videos, listening to the podcast, taking quizzes, asking questions, coming to the classes. I'm not going to be able to hold your hand on your way to enlightenment. That's something that you're going to need to have the dedication, the determination, and the diligence to learn and grow and develop and be done with this anger, be done with the frustration, and decide that this is something that you're interested in accomplishing. You're going to need to independently verify as you're learning and growing and developing, not believing any of these teachings. And then establishing this daily meditation practice. I'm going to be teaching you breathing mindfulness meditation and loving kindness meditation. I'll explain to you guys what those are and why they're important and what they're actually doing for your mind. And then if you've learned in other places, I suggest you set that stuff aside. As easy it is to say it, it's kind of hard for your mind to do it, right? Because there are certain things that you've actually might have been exposed to, but if you haven't been exposed and learned with the original words of the Buddha, there are certain things in your mind that you don't currently understand about the world. If you experience anger and frustration and annoyance and any of these other discontent feelings like guilt and shame and stress and anxiety, there are certain things about this world that you don't currently know. So whatever you know now hasn't led to your enlightenment. So you're going to need to penetrate into these teachings and see the truth. And any things that you've learned before, while those things might have gotten you to where you are today, they haven't led to your enlightenment. So you're going to need to be open to new thoughts, new ideas, new teachings to be able to bring this in. But you're not believing this stuff. Don't believe anything I say. Don't believe anything I write in books. Don't believe anything you ever hear anybody else talk about. You need to learn it, examine it, investigate it, reflect on it to verify it, and then practice it. And that's where you'll be able to see the truth. And just kind of getting to our closing here is as you're learning and growing in any type of program, including this kind of program, it's important to keep in mind that nobody ever accomplished anything great and magnificent through complacency. If you're going to be complacent in a program like this, you're not going to get very much benefit. You're going to get out of this program what you put into it. If you're reading weekly, if you're coming to classes or watching the recordings, if you're maybe choosing to ask questions occasionally, if you're meditating and doing these other things, you're going to see the benefits. It's only a matter of time before your mind experiences more and more improvement. I've seen some students come to me after just 2 days of learning when I'm teaching a 5-day course. They come in on the 3rd day and they say, David, I got an email this morning that would have normally shaken me up and I would have been so upset. But after learning what I learned in the last 2 days, I understood and I wasn't upset when I saw that email. Thank you for sharing these teachings, essentially. So you can see progress as early as 2 days, like this individual did. But of course, with gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress, you'll see this gradual transformation to the mind. So you're going to get out of this program whatever you put into it. Okay? This is just our schedule. This is the last thing, just to kind of show you guys what we're going to be doing over the coming weeks. Is today it's just all about welcome and introductions to the group learning program. On the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Sunday, I'm going to be teaching the Eightfold Path in 3 individual sections. We're going to penetrate into it over the next 3 weeks each Sunday. Then on the 5th Sunday, I'm going to teach what's called the 10 fetters so that you guys can understand what these underlying pollutions are that the Buddha actually discovered, so that you can understand those and what's called the 4 stages of enlightenment. And then on the 6th Sunday, which is 5 weeks from today, that's where I'm going to start chapter 1, which is going to help you to understand what's called the universal teachings: love, no harm, and good morals. Then on Wednesdays, I'm going to be teaching 3 4-part series. The 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Wednesday, I'm going to be teaching a 4-part series on breathing mindfulness meditation. Then I'm going to teach a 4-part series on loving kindness meditation, which is going to help you eliminate anger, hatred, and ill will, frustration, agitation, annoyment, even negative self-talk. If you have like an inner dialogue where you degrade and diminish yourself, this meditation is going to help you eliminate that. Then I'm going to teach you a 4-part series on Buddhist chanting. And then ultimately, once we get to that point, then I'm going to alternate, where each Wednesday I'm going to do breathing mindfulness meditation one Wednesday, and then the next Wednesday, loving kindness, breathing mindfulness, loving kindness. And then I open up to any and all questions that you guys might have. Okay, so that's our plan for this program. And I'll just kind of pause and see if you guys have any questions on anything I've shared so far. Remember here, if you could use the mics, and then online, you can put it into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or raise your hand in Zoom if you have questions. Okay. Yes, do you have a question, ma'am?
question is about the principle of karma you mentioned before. So I suppose the pre-assumption of that is we all have free will, as you just mentioned. We have free will to choose where we sit, what we wear. But I feel like, do we really have free will? Like, how can we know we have free will? Suppose if there's something ingrained in our brain that made us make the decisions unconsciously. So in that sense, we don't have choice. We just, like, everything is mechanical.
Yeah, you need to be able to see the truth of this. And that's why I gave you the example of ask yourself who chose where you sit, who chose what you wear, who chose your hairstyle, any of these kinds of things, because it's not possible for somebody else to imprint something within your mind. Any decisions that you make, they're not unconscious decisions. You're consciously making every decision. Like, you chose to pick up that microphone. You chose to turn it on. You chose to ask that question. These aren't things that somebody put into your mind. These are choices that you made based in free will. So every single being has free will, and you need to be able to see that for yourself, because you can look over the course of your life and ask yourself what decisions were made that you didn't make. You need to be able to see over the course of your life, it's an accumulation of decisions that you're making. And you might not be able to do that in one conversation, but over time, you need to be able to look at that and be able to penetrate and see that everything that you're experiencing is based in free will, your own personal choices. Because any other perspective on that is to not be able to see the reality that what you're experiencing is based in your decisions, but you need to be able to see it for yourself. Somebody can't just tell it to you. You can't just believe it. You need to be able to see it for yourself.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I don't see any other questions anywhere, either online or here at the temple. So I'm going to end just by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest in the teachings of the Buddha. Whether you're here at the temple, you're online, thank you for attending and being interested to learn and practice these teachings. Because, you know, it's really easy to show up to a building and just believe things and just worship and kind of think that we're going to pray our life into a better existence. But that's kind of easy up front, but then later on it becomes very hard and very difficult in life. But it's a lot more challenging to show up to a place like this and do this inner work and really think about things and challenge what you're currently thinking about the world. That's a lot more challenging, but then it makes life so much easier as you grow and learn and develop your mind inwardly. So I really admire people who choose to learn and grow and develop on this path, because it's to admit to yourself that you are not yet perfect and that you would like to do this inner work and grow and develop and transform your mind. So I really admire those kinds of individuals that are willing to do this work to transform your own mind so that you're causing less and less harm to other people. And that's one of the reasons why I'm very motivated and enthused and ambitious to be able to help you. So as you guys grow and as you go forward in life, whether you take this program or not, I'm here to help you guys as you need any help with any aspect of your life. But just remember, it's you that's doing that work to choose to ask for help and then do the inner work to be able to grow and learn and develop on this path. So as I mentioned, next week on Sunday, I'm going to be sharing with you the very first part of the Eightfold Path, where I'm going to be teaching right view and right intention. This is the wisdom section of the Eightfold Path. And for anybody who would like to do a little bit of reading in the book, you're more than welcome to do that. Tomorrow, I'm going to be starting a course here called The Foundation and the Path to Enlightenment. And I'm going to be teaching essentially the first 2 months of this group learning program in this 5-day period, because rather than doing just an hour and a half each day over the course of multiple Sundays, we're going to be doing, kind of 5 hours a day, 6 hours a day, where we're going to be teaching from 9 to 3 p.m. and we take an hour and a half lunch break. So if anybody would like to come to the entire course next week or even a portion of that course, you're welcome to be here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And we're going to cap it off on Friday with a tour where we're going to go out and take students to temples outside the city. So you're more than welcome to attend any of these kinds of events. You'll find them on our bulletin board here at the temple or on our website. You can look on our website and see all the events that we have. And you're also welcome to come talk to me, and I can plug you into any kind of events that we're having. So once again, thank you all for joining, and perhaps I'll see you guys in a future class. Have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee Kap. Sawadee Kap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look for answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.